Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. I hope everybody's having a super fantastic day, and I hope you guys enjoyed your day off yesterday. And also, I hope you had a super fantastic weekend. Now, today we are going to continue working on point of view. So, our essential question is, how is my point of view different than that of a character or a narrator's in a story? So, today, what we're going to do, we have a busy day for today. What we're going to do is we are going to listen to our vocabulary rap song that I know that everybody loves so much. We're going to briefly talk about what perspective is. We're going to listen to a read aloud called A Tale of Two Beasts. And let me just tell you, if you watched Friday's video, Miss Taylor and I had so much fun, even though we couldn't be in the same video together. I paused the recording and she got to read part of the story, and that's what we're going to do with today's story as well. We're going to compare some perspectives of the characters in this story, and then I'm going to model to you how to do your assignment today. So, your assignment, you're going to read a quote, and I'm going to model how to compare your perspective to whatever the author is saying. And then you're going to compare your perspective with two other quotes by using a Venn diagram. It's a lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's going to be good. All right. So, let's start with our vocabulary video.
Every story has a narrator, and every narrator has a different point of view. Which point of view is yours? Let's go! Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Hey yo, knock knock, who's there? Narrator, narrator, who gonna tell the story from a point of view? Every story's written in a certain voice. When you're writing, you need to make a choice. First, second, or third person, POV. The first person is all about me, or we, like we climbed the tree. I closed my eyes and I felt the breeze. I might be unreliable if I don't tell the truth. Now let's switch the point of view to you. In the second person, you're in a taxi. You're wondering how you got there exactly. The third person is he or she. He walked down the street and he saw the queen. She was dressed hip like it wasn't a thing. That's the third person, take it from him. Third person narration could be objective, omniscient, or from a limited perspective. Can the narrator see in everyone's thoughts? Narrating omnisciently like a boss. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she.
Everybody wants to know my POV.
All right now, check your notes. Tell me which POV is in each quote. I was born with water on the brain. That's
First person.
He looked up into Father Wolf's face and laughed. That's
Third person.
We didn't always live on Mango Street. That's
First person.
Sophie closed her eyes and lay quite still. That's
Third person.
Your feet are now stuck in green slime. That's
Second person.
In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. That's
Third person.
It made me so sick I almost fell out of the tree. That's
First person.
You're thinking this wasn't the way it was supposed to go. That's
Second person.
My name is Katniss Everdeen. I'm 17 years old. That's
First person.
Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV. Everybody wants to know my point of view. First person is me, second person is you. Third person is he, third person is she. Everybody wants to know my POV.
All right. So let's continue. So today, while we're reading, I'm going to briefly talk about perspective here for a second. So let me make myself bigger. Nope. So perspective is your opinion or an author's opinion on a certain topic. So for example, people can have different perspectives. For example, your teacher could think that homework is the most amazing thing in the world and that it's great and students need to have it all the time. But your perspective might be that homework is evil and you think that we should never have homework. So that's what a perspective is. It's really just your opinion on the topic. All right, so now what we're going to do is we are going to listen to a read aloud read by myself and Miss Taylor. This story is called A Tale of Two Beasts, and it's a story about a little girl who finds a squirrel in the woods, and she thinks she saves him, but the squirrel doesn't think she saved him. The bell's ringing. So half of this story is from the girl's point of view, and the other half of this story is from the squirrel's point of view. Miss Taylor is going to come in, and she is going to read the girl's point of view, and then when she's finished, I'm going to continue with the squirrel's point of view. And what we're going to do right after we finish reading our parts is we are going to fill in this Venn diagram. And we use a Venn diagram when we are comparing two things, telling how things are like, how they are alike, or how they're different. So Miss Taylor's going to fill in a couple of things on this side with the perspective of the girl. And I'm going to fill in some things on this side with the perspective of the squirrel. And we're going to tell how they're different. Some of their things that they might say or do will be the same, and that's what's going to go in the middle. All right, so I'm going to disappear, and Miss Taylor will pop up in just a second.
Hello, boys and girls. Miss Taylor here. I had to take off my mask now that my door is shut and there's nobody in my room. We are reading, and I know Mr. Cavender has already introduced the story to you. We're reading A Tale of Two Beasts. Now, we've been talking about point of view, and I know Mr. Cavender has mentioned point of view. A synonym for that is also called perspective. So if I say my point of view of a story, or I can also say my perspective, those are synonyms. They mean the same thing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see the cover of our story. Called A Tale of Two Beasts. And look at that word tale. That is called a homonym. It's a word that sounds the same as another word that you've heard before, but it's not spelled the same and it doesn't mean the same. Or excuse me, a homophone. Homonym are two words that are spelled the same and sound the same. This just sounds the same as like the tail of this squirrel. The tail of this squirrel is T-A-I-L. A tale, T-A-L-E, is like a story. So a story of two beasts. You have a little girl and you have the squirrel. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Cavender's already talked about the points of the story. So we're going to be listening to an adventure the little girl goes on as well as the squirrel. I am reading it from the perspective of the little girl, how she sees this whole situation happening. So A Tale of Two Beasts by Fiona Robertson. And boys and girls, this is the first time I've heard this story. When Mr. Cavender showed it to me earlier today, it is amazing. I will read this from here on out for as long as I teach third grade. All right, here we go. Title page, A Tale of Two Beasts. The Strange Beast. I was walking home from Grandma's house through the deep, dark woods when I spied a strange little beast. And he was stuck up a tree and whining sadly. And there, she sees that beast hanging in a tree. But, you know, just doing what they do. So I decided to rescue him. I will call you Fang, I told him, and I wrapped him warmly up in my scarf and carried him safely home. I gave him a lovely bath and a gorgeous new hat and sweater and a delicious bowl of fresh nuts. I made him a beautiful house and I gave him Lord Rex to play with. I took him out for lots of long walkies to keep him fit and healthy. Look how she's pulling that leash. And I showed him off to all my friends who loved him nearly as much as I did. Now they're all touching him. His face is getting really red because he's not happy. But for some strange reason, the little beast did not look very happy. In fact, he was looking rather hot. I hope he's not sick, I thought. And I opened the window to cool him down. And then something terrible happened. What do you think he did? He threw off all his clothes, leaped out the window, and ran away as fast as he could, back to the deep, dark woods. Aww, he vanished. I wanted to go and look for him, but Mama had other plans. Dinner time. Bleh. Bath time. Grr. Bedtime. Grr. I couldn't sleep. I missed the little beast and wondered if I could ever see him again. But then a small furry shadow appeared at the foot of my bed. Huh. The strange little beast had returned. He seemed quite pleased to see me, and I began to think that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't that strange after all. I wonder why he came back. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen. We are going to fill out a graphic organizer. This is called a Venn diagram, very similar to a double bubble. It's used to compare and contrast two things. We're looking at how the little girl and the squirrel, and how the little girl is different from the squirrel, because those two, when you're looking at this left side, it is not overlapping the squirrel's circle. Whereas the squirrel circle is over here is only about the squirrel. When the two sides or the two circles overlap, that is what they have in common. Well, the little girl's perspective. When I was reading the story, the little girl thought the squirrel was a beast. It wasn't a beast. It was a squirrel, but she didn't know that. And she wanted to take him home and care for him like a pet. Well, he's not a tamed animal. He is a wild animal. So he wasn't very happy, in my opinion or my perspective, to be brought into a house and taken care of like a pet. So the little girl, she was happy. She, let's say little girl was happy. She was trying to take care of a wild creature. She gave him a bath. She gave him clothes. She showed him off to his friends, or excuse me, her friends. She walked him on a leash. Let's see, I'm going to go back into my story because that's what good readers do, to look for evidence to support what they're trying to say. Oh, she kept him warm. She gave him toys. Go to another line. Because she put him in a box with another stuffed animal. She cooled him off by opening the window. All right, so she was happy. She was a happy person. She was trying to take care of a wild creature, or she was just trying to take care of a creature. She gave him a bath, gave him clothes, showed him off to her friends, walked him on a leash, kept him warm, gave him, that's why we reread, it's called editing, gave him toys, cooled him off by opening the window. Then I'm looking back, she was sad. He got loose. All right, so now what Mr. Cavendish is going to do is he's going to come in here and he is going to talk about the squirrel's perspective of this adventure that they went on, and then we're going to compare the two point of views, aka perspectives. All right, so here we go, friends. I am going to.
All right, Miss Taylor did such an amazing job reading the perspective of the little girl. Now let's move on and see how the squirrel felt about the little girl just taking him from the dark woods. All right. Part 2, The Terrible Beast. I was hanging from my favorite tree, singing happily to the birds when tra-la-la, tra-la-la. Let me turn this light on. Hey, I was ambushed by a terrible beast. Gotta get a sip of water. She growled at me and tied me up and carried me off to her secret lair. She made me disgustingly clean and dressed me up in a ridiculous hat and sweater, and tried to make me eat squirrel food. She kept me in a tiny box with nothing for me to do and nowhere for me to hang. He looks pretty bored. She made me walk backwards and forwards and backwards again for no reason whatsoever. She showed me off to a herd of even wilder beasts who were just as terrible as she was. I had had enough. I made a cunning plan and put it straight into action. His plan is that he's going to jump out of the window. A plus B equals freedom. Free once more. I raced back to the deep, dark woods before the terrible beast could catch me. Woo! It was peaceful in the deep, dark woods. A bit too peaceful, perhaps. And also a bit wet. And weather like this, one could do with a nice warm hat. I snuck back to retrieve it under cover. I snuck back to retrieve it under cover of darkness. The terrible beast was waiting for me. She seemed quite pleased to see me. And I began to think that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't that terrible after all. All right. So now let's fill in the perspective of the squirrel on our Venn diagram. Let's switch our cameras back and share our screen. All right. So the squirrel was happy to live in the woods. Miss Taylor put that she was trying to take care of the creature, but the creature thought the girl was a terrible beast. She gave him clothes, but he didn't like the clothes or the hat. Oh, I'm a little big. She also showed him off to her friends. She showed me off to wild beasts just like her. Forced him to walk forwards and backwards. There's even more. She cooled him off. She tried to cool him off by opening the window, but he saw the open window and planned an escape. All right. So this is how perspectives are different. So in the same story, these two characters had different perspectives. And now you're going to have a chance to practice your perspectives today and how they might be different or similar of that of another person. So let's look on the next slide. So this next slide has a quote that says, "Running for the presidency seems like a fairly easy task. I think I will try it when I get older." All right, so you are going to compare your perspective to whatever the author of these two sentences says. So the narrator's point of view is that it is easy to become president. And they might do it when they get older. Now, how is that different from your perspective? So my perspective, for example, my perspective is that it is hard to become president. You have to learn a lot about rules and laws of the country. I do not want to become president when I am older. All right, so you are going to compare whatever the point of view of the perspective of the quote is going to be to whatever yours is. So let me show you your assignment for today. So when you get into Canvas, you hit your ELA button. You're going to hit your day of the week, which today is going to be Tuesday. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to click modules. And you're going to go to one called Comparing Perspectives with today's date on it. So you'll click it. The directions are to click the gray box below to access your assignment. On slides 1 and 3, there are going to be 2 quotes. You're going to decide what the author's perspective is or how they feel about whatever's being talked about. And then on slides 2 and 4, you're going to use a Venn diagram to compare your perspective to the author's and tell how it's different or the same. So the 2 quotes that you're going to be reading, the first quote is, "The 3 little pigs were actually plotting against the big bad wolf all along." So this author says that the big bad wolf was not a big bad wolf, and that the pigs had a plan to try to get rid of him. So that's what you would type here, and then you would tell me what you think, what your perspective is on the big bad wolf. Was the big bad wolf actually big and bad? Were the 3 little pigs actually good and were scared? Or how was it the same? Maybe you agree that the big bad wolf was framed for his crimes. Then this one here it looks like the perspective of probably a teacher or someone, is going to school for 7 hours a day is not enough time to learn everything. School should last at least 10 hours a day. So maybe you think the school should be 3 hours longer than what it already is. So the narrator's point of view would be that school is not long enough, that it should be longer. And then you're going to compare that to whatever you think. Maybe you're thinking, no, school should be shorter. You type that in this box there. All right, after you're done, there's going to be a blue submit button, and you just submit it, and your teacher will be able to give you feedback. All right, boys and girls, see you tomorrow. Bye.